Be here. When Angela told me to come, I'm like, yeah, this is totally up my alley. I mean, I feel like, I don't know if I have a lot to share to give, but hopefully there's a lot that I can share, and I would love for this to be interactive. I mean, I'll give you my little spiel about me, and then I would just love to, if there's more questions that I could answer, I would love to do that. But yes, I grew up in Irvine, California, so right down the road, I guess, so to speak. With traffic, you know, that's not really right down the road, right? So I grew up in Irvine, California. I started playing when I was 5, literally one of those people, one of those girls that probably was not normal, where I just wanted to be in the streets like Leah, like swinging and playing with the ball. I don't know. My dad wanted me to be a basketball star, and I like hugely resisted, and whatever it is, I gravitated towards softball. So my parents had like no idea what softball was. I was an only child. So for me, it was a way to like connect with other girls, make friends, all of that jazz. And so that's literally like how I gravitated towards softball. Never in a million years did I think that it would be my life. And honestly, it's been like a career that I couldn't have dreamt of. And just my journey is I just literally just like fell in love with the sport, fell in love with the game, and like never really like thought too far ahead. Like I was just so in the present, so in the now, just wanting to just perfect and hone like every skill. I wanted to pitch, I wanted to hit, I wanted to play outfield, I wanted to be an infielder, I just wanted to do everything. So that's just kind of how it evolved. Fast forward, my dad's probably like the most influential person in my career, because what he would do is once he started to see, because mind you, he was a huge basketball guy. My parents had season tickets to Lakers, and so that was his thing. He liked basketball. And so once he started to see that it was something that I liked, what he would do is he would just kind of take me to each next level, and that's just kind of how it sparked my interest. So I don't know, when I was like 10, he would take me to the local high school. I would watch the local high school play. Once I got into high school, then we would go to community colleges and the colleges that were in the area. So it just kind of got to see the next level. When I was in high school, I got to see the '96 Olympic team compete, and that's kind of when it was like, you mean I can play softball in the Olympics? Like, get out of here. Like, so then from there, it's just kind of like hell broke loose, if I can say that. So it's just excuse me. So I did anything and everything in my power to, because I wanted to be an Olympian, and so that's just kind of how everything began. Ended up going to UCLA, played my 4 years there, and that was a dream come true as well, because mind you, my dad also took me to UCLA games, and that's kind of how I was like, I want to do that. And had a great career. I mean, that's just, I don't know, there's not much to share about like my time in college, and obviously as you guys are post your undergrad, that's just like such a time where you like learn so much about yourself, and you kind of put all the pieces together, especially competing collegiately, like there's so many demands from you, so you kind of really have to learn very, very fast in terms of like all of the time management, and like just literally like what are your priorities and getting those all straight. So I think my college years were the time that I learned the most about myself as like an individual, as a person. But I don't know. I think I don't know if I'm just like sharing every moment, but I think journey. I think my trials. I think I kind of had my like humbling experience my senior year in high school. I was a top recruit, being recruited heavily, and got to try out for this junior national team. So mind you, a year prior, my dad had taken me to go watch this '96 Olympic team, and that's where it was like, the gates broke open. And so I went to go try out for this like junior national team. I just thought I was like the SHIT, and I just thought I was just like good, because I was getting recruited by everybody. Like everybody wanted Natasha to come to their school. It was great. I mean, in the most humblest way that I can say that, it was a great feeling, because this was the game that I loved. And went to this tryout, and I don't know, like it just, I learned a valuable lesson. Like balls are going through my legs. Like every throw I threw, I was like, I played shortstop, so I was throwing to like right field, like every play. Like I'm like, okay, like dude, like what's going on? Like every college wants me, but like nothing's happening. ended up not making this junior national team. So this was like my first step to like becoming an Olympian or being on the USA team. Ended up like not making this team. My parents picked me up. I lived in Irvine. The tryout was in San Diego. I drive from San Diego to Irvine and I like cry the entire way, like just like devastated because I'm crushed. This is supposed to be, everything's supposed to lay out exactly how I wanted to, but I think it's one of those kind of like humbling experiences where it puts things in perspective and it's like, how bad do you want this? And everything's not given. And like if it were that easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
That's right.
So that's kind of like the time where I feel like like I started to kick things in gear. And even my freshman year in college, like all I cared about was softball. Like academically, I'm like, what do I need to do so that I can play softball, you know? And little did I know that like things like were connected. And it's just like that period that you just learn so much about yourself and that it really starts to shape that everything is connected. And that, I think I'm so grateful for that. Fast forward, I get to try out for the 2004 Olympic team. So now I have that junior team in the back of my mind. Like now I'm like, okay, like this opportunity will not pass. And diving for balls, like I'm like trying to be MJ on the softball field, like, you know, just doing everything to make plays, and ended up making the 2004 Olympic team. I got to win a gold medal. I got to play with Leah O'Brien and Miko, who was someone I looked up to in the 96 team. I got to watch her play and compete. And it's one of those moments where you kind of like look back and you just can't believe that you made it there. And it's so amazing when you just kind of put your head down and you do the work and you kind of look up and wow, I made it, I did it. And that was that. So 2004, played in the Olympics, won a gold medal, and I thought I was going to be done after that. And then I'm like, no, let's just keep this going. And ended up going 2008, playing there. Didn't win a gold medal, won a silver, and from then I thought I was gonna maybe retire, but I'm like, well, no, I think I'm like young enough, I think I can still go and play. End up going and playing professionally in Japan, and which is another crazy thing. Like, you know, I started playing when I was 5, like never even saw the possibilities. I just fell in love with this game, and go and play in Japan, and that's just, wow, like what a freaking experience. I thought I learned a lot about myself, like my 4 years in college. Like, talk about having to like grow up. And I mean, language barrier, culture barrier, being away from my family, food, their practice routine, like everything is like, my whole world is like flipped upside down. But I will tell you, my experience in Japan has been like the most amazing experience, and just being able to be considered a professional athlete, like that's just, I mean, for a woman, I you know, that's just not something that I had a lot of women to look up to, not a lot of women professional athletes to look up to. So to be able to say that I was making a living, playing the game that I love, is one of my most coolest and proudest accomplishments. And I played there for 8 seasons, and I thought I was just going to go and play for 1 season, and played for 8 seasons and retired last year. And fast forward to this year, I ended up coaching. They offered me a job to coach, so this past year I coached in Japan, and I know a little bit of Japanese, and so I had to like communicate with my athletes, and it's just, I'm like looking in the mirror, I'm like, who are you? Like, what in the world? Like, this just all started just because I wanted to just be around other girls. So you just kind of like, you know, you never know like where you're going to end up type of thing, and you just kind of just put your head down. If you're passionate about something, you just kind of make something happen, and it just, life happens. And so that's where we are now. And so obviously, I know Angela's told you about my nonprofit, Natasha Watley Foundation, and that's probably my best accomplishment from my softball playing career, is to be able to give young girls an opportunity to play. And so I started that right after the Olympics in 2008, because I did think I was going to retire, so that was going to be where I was going to transition to, but the whole Japan thing happened. But I was luckily enough, able to start this nonprofit. And are any of you guys familiar with RBI? RBI is through MLB. MLB baseball has a program called RBI. It's Reviving Baseball. in the inner city. So the founder is this man named John Young, and he found me when I was in college, and he was wanting to start the softball chapter, and so he like reached out to me like, I need you, I want you to come and work with my girls. We're gonna, we're doing all of this stuff for boys, but by default, we're doing stuff for girls, but I would love to really give it some attention. Would you mind? And I started to go and work with these young ladies and just fell in love with just, them not even knowing what softball was and not even knowing the actual journey that it could actually take them, or places that it could take them. So that's what sparked me to start my nonprofit. And so Mr. Young was my mentor. He just passed away last year. And he was my mentor who literally held my hand and just told me how you run a nonprofit and how you run an organization and all of the things that you need to do. And that's where I'm at now. But I know you kind of wanted me to touch on, kind of like my journey on like what I had to do to start. And I think that's kind of like an interest or a topic of what you guys talk about here. But I was lucky. He introduced me to a law firm. And this law firm, they did everything pro bono. You have to get incorporated, get your 501c3, and did all of that through that. I'm an athlete. I like to play softball. I don't know how to run a nonprofit, but it's amazing when you just start to do, you kind of learn on the way, and you learn through the process, and you learn how to fundraise. I'm like, fundraise? I'm like, the last time I fundraised was in Girl Scouts, like, having Girl Scout cookies. But just being able to fundraise and have your programs and like have the data and make sure that you're serving your community and showing, and your numbers have to match that. And I'm like, I don't know all this stuff, but what I've learned, two things that I've learned is, one, I do have a board, and my board, I have like, my biggest mistake with my board, the very first, and I'll tell you this with my board, when I started it, it was just like, I asked like everybody in my Rolodex, like, do you want to be on my board? Hey, do you want to be on my board? Hey, do you want to be on my board? Like, and I asked everybody who were Tasha's supporters, everybody who was like, absolutely, yeah, I'll do it. What you're doing is great. And that doesn't really move an organization forward, which I found out 8 years later. So maybe 2 years ago, I decided, okay, like I'm going to have to revamp this a little bit. So what I learned from that process is I really have to surround myself with, people who can really help me move this organization forward, and not necessarily, yes, I want them to be Tasha supporters or supporters of like the work that we're doing, but I really need to surround myself with people who really know how to move an organization forward. So on my board, I have a family friend who's a retired accountant, an attorney, someone who has a background in fundraising. So it's really, if you ever think about starting your own organization, it's really surrounding yourself with people who are in different fields who actually can help you move your organization forward. That's like one of the biggest things that I learned. It's an obvious, but at first it was just literally just, hey, you want to come? Yeah, everybody come. Another thing is just fundraising. Like fundraising is just a beast, and I mean, obviously, it's that feeling of like not wanting to like sell something and like, will you donate? Will you do this? But literally, when you're doing something that you're passionate about and you're, really proud of the work that you do, it's really easy to put something forward like that. So that's kind of just been something that I've had to step out of my comfort zone, and like I really am proud of the work that I'm doing, and whatever it is, right now is like Giving Tuesday time and really putting myself out there to move the organization forward. So that's kind of just like where I'm at to this date, kind of my background, and I think I would love to just kind of answer the questions that you guys have. I think that'll just be easy.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of questions because everyone came in with some questions prepared, but I love that, well, first of all, you're incredibly well spoken, so I'm already taking notes about like how beautiful does she just present your information, but I think too, just to use your platform of what you've done and use it for good and use it to like really bless the community, that I think that's incredible. So I love that you're doing what you're doing. But you guys want to jump in and ask some questions? Brian.
Just curious, is there something after this as well that you have in future that you think about doing and want to?
Good question. gosh. I think it's like it changes every day. Like, and mind you, I've only been retired for 1 year. I definitely, what I do know is I want to stay in softball, and I want to give back to the sport because it's been like so good to me. I know what I don't want to do. I want to be free with my time in terms of like where I give my attention to. So I don't want to, I'm not sure if I'm ready to be like a collegiate coach yet. But I love what I'm doing in Japan. It's like an awesome experience, but they allow me to go back and forth, although it is a far flight. But I'm able to like, do clinics here. I'm able to work on my nonprofit. I'm able to, I do volunteer at CSUN. But I just want to be able to like give back to softball in like every lane possible. So that's kind of what I have in the future. And I think like even with, technology these days, I'm looking at doing like something online. If I could do training that way where I can hit the masses and reach the masses, and that's kind of like something that's in the works. But definitely want to stay in softball.
Go Matadors, by the way.
Yeah, are you a
Yeah, I got my bachelor's from there. So.
Cool, yeah.
Titans.
Oh gosh, yeah, they're like a pain in our butt too. Like, yeah.
UCLA too. We need you guys. Just different story though.
Yeah, but when? Not when I was there. Like.
Speaking of, I worked at a nonprofit for a long time too, and actually one of our tenants was a guy from RBI. His name is Dave Smith. I'm not sure if you know who that is, but I actually reached out to him because I was a coach and he knew who I was too. I tried to get a little coaching gig with him.
Yeah.
It didn't really work out, but he was one of those guys that's how I got into
from RBI.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now.
Also had a friend who played for Japan as well. Her name was Lauren Lupanetti.
Yeah, that name sounds really familiar.
She was the catcher.
That name sounds really familiar.
Yeah, she played for Japan. She went to Cal State Fullerton, and then she went over there after a while. And so,
all right, very cool. Yeah, a lot of athletes go in like Japan, and I can talk about that because you asked me to, so I'm going to touch about it. But like, so
share with them about playing in Italy, which is like a very minor.
More, yeah.
Like in terms of their league and their resources and how they do it. So I would love to see what.
And I think it's more support. So the support in Japan. So what's different? So we do have a pro league here in the States. So I played, it's called National Professional Fast Pitch, and I played for that, and there's only 5, well, there were 6 teams, now there's 5 teams. I played for a team called Florida Pride in Florida, and then there's this Japan Pro League. So what's different about the two is the support. So in the Japan Pro League, they are owned by companies. So each team is owned by a company. So I play for Team Toyota in Japan, which is cool. So we play against Honda. We don't like Honda. We don't like Nissan. We don't like right. Yeah, we don't like. So like if you guys have a Honda, sorry, I don't like you because Toyota pays me. So it's there's Hitachi Software. All of the Japanese companies. So what's really neat is that each company really like takes a hit and they just have to carve out a budget for their sports team. So there's like a lot of support financially from these companies. What's different in the NPF is they're owned by individual owners. And so individual owners, if you meet a certain requirement, you can have a team. And obviously, without TV exposure, we don't have corporate sponsorships. It's just our league here is like it's trying to survive.
Even at the local level, it's just really tough to get the locals to.
Right, and that's the thing that I think they're trying to figure out, because as of late, collegiate softball has really taken off. Like it's really like World Series time. Like it's like on ESPN all the time. But they're just really trying to figure out like who is the audience, and like these girls are continuing on, but they're having them in the most random cities, so they think that in these small local cities that they'll get a draw, and there's not really a draw for whatever reason. I mean, probably people just don't care about softball the way that I do, but there's still a lot of young girls playing, so it's hard to say why it hasn't taken off.
And there's no minor league affiliate with like professional softball teams,
No.
So you just go straight to college.
So you have to like be 21 or exhausted your 4 years of playing eligibility to be eligible to play in this pro league. But to answer your question, there's no minor league. There's only 5 or 6 teams. So I think the first year was 2004, 2005. And it sucks because they'll be like the first year there was 8 teams, and it went down to 7, and went to 6, Then we had, it's just, there's a lot of up and down. It's not very consistent, which is good but not good.
What would be your advice to an athlete who's looking to go overseas, kind of, and what you wish you would have known before going over there?
Well, definitely research where you want to go. One thing that I would recommend is put yourself out there. I mean, even though I was an Olympian, like, I wasn't, I mean, it's more position based that I wasn't sought after. So I literally just put myself out there. Hey, I'm interested. Can I come and play for you? But I really think just research the teams and reach out to their general manager. Each team has a general manager, and let them know that you're interested, and send them if you have tape, if you have stats of your collegiate career or whatnot. I definitely would send that. And you said basketball. I know, and basketball, there's overseas, there's a ton of opportunities.
Corey shared his brother's playing overseas right now. Right?
Oh my God, there's a ton of.
What are some of the things you wish you knew about just life, not even sports, but just the way of living in different countries and kind of
very good question. I think I could have done a better job of just knowing Japanese culture. I just went in I was very open, but I went in very ignorant. So, and I don't want to use the word ignorant, but just not I didn't know a lot about Japanese culture, which I wish I would have done my homework a little bit more before going, just to prepare for the way of life, and it would have helped me understand the way that they function, because when my first year, I'm just why do they do things like this, but it's the way, it's culturally how they are. They repetition, but they are very conservative culture. So I wish, you can know that, but I just think just know where you're going and just kind of research, just so that you can understand where they're coming from, so that'll help you fit in a little bit better. And I think learning the language a little bit, just not being so dependent on it. I had a translator, but I really depended on her, so it didn't really allow me to have that human interaction, because I was afraid to speak, because I didn't know Japanese. So it was just asking the translator, so what'd she say? Well, I want to say this, instead of just knowing simple things and just try. I think what I've maybe 5 years in is just to be able to just try to speak and try to do things that they do, and not so much resist and well, this is the way I did it, and this is the way that made me successful. Just really just open yourself up and just dive in to their culture, their food. Try to speak, even though that you don't know what you're saying, at least that they can see that you're trying. It just helped with that team camaraderie type thing, and that having that teammate connection, so to speak. I think I could have done a better job with that. Yeah.
What was a good advice that a coach gave you while you were playing?
I had so much. Obviously, I think in my professional career, I think the best advice I gave was so simple. Best advice I received, it was so simple, but it was play as long as you can. And literally, I was so in a hurry, and I know that this maybe won't apply to you guys, but it's just more so don't be such in a hurry to go and get a real job or whatever it is, but more so just if this is your passion and you really enjoy playing, you're gonna at some point you're gonna have to hang it up. So if you have the opportunity, play as long as you can. And to apply that to yourself, I think it's just whatever it is that makes you happy, makes you passionate, just do it, just do it 100%. Obviously do it smart, you've got to support yourself and all those things, but it's just, follow your gut and follow your heart. And I think I was there's, softball players can only play for this long. That's just not what everybody else is doing. Here I'm going to tell my age, I'm 35. I retired at the age 35 playing softball. That's just not heard of. And who are you? You write your own story, you write your own destiny. So it's just kind of the best advice is just play as long as you can if this is what you really, really love.
Obviously, foundation's a lot of work. So what's been either a conversation, interaction, or just a moment where you're this is complete, this is worth it?
Well, it's worth it every time I like go out and see the girls. You know, I'll see them this Saturday. I saw them last week. Like when I'm in Japan and like working on stuff, trying to figure out like how to fundraise and like how to like how much money we have to like put on our programs. I'm like, this is a choice. But when I go and I see the girls, I mean, every time I go and see the girls, it's like this is it. This is exactly why. I mean, the smiles and they're happy and wow, I didn't know that softball would bring me so much joy, or you know, it's just I think it's so super simple. Like seeing their smiles, seeing how happy it makes them, like makes me not mind doing the work, figuring it out.
So I know that going over there, you kind of had to like be open, or like kind of just be more open-minded, and you know, and obviously you found out, I was like, I can't. This is tough. I can't. I have to be more. Did you, when coming back over here, did you feel like, you know, did you bring stuff like culture-wise from Japan that you felt like are very pretty important maybe in helping your company and then maybe going forward?
I did more so in my like because I still played here professionally while I was still going back and forth, and I did. And what I learned there is just they literally appreciate anything and everything, and it's just not that I didn't appreciate it more, but they are more animated and more what is it? I'm trying to find the word, but
Like charismatic?
It's more that they show it, and it's just with equipment. Every day after practice, they're wiping balls, and not so much to that extent, but it's more so like appreciating. Like I had sponsorships, and they had this, and it's just appreciating my equipment and appreciating the field that we're playing on. They just, I mean, it's a very respectable culture where they just respect anything and everything, and I really feel like I tried to bring that in my game when I came back home as, you know, yeah, like this isn't given. This is a choice, and this is, like, really put things in perspective, like, I made this choice, and made me put things in perspective and appreciate it a little bit more, I think, just after playing there. That's a good question.
No, I mean, it seems like it's a great place to really bring a lot of things over here that people
And practice-wise, too. I mean, I always was like, I loved practice, but definitely, like, I mean, we practice for, like, 8 hours a day there. Like, they take practice to an extreme. But that was an adjustment. I'm like, okay. Like,
not the Italians, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, Italians, like, when's
our
my
wine and
time?
smoke
Right,
break? I was
right,
like, this is amazing.
Right? No.
To the wrong country.
Yeah, no, like, Japan, they practice all day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Rain or shine.
Yeah, we only get 1 day off a week, so it's kind of like, it's just nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That part, I'm like, okay. But you know, you like, you adjust and you adapt, and I think that made me a better player because I like was repetition, you know, so yeah.
Where would you like to see your nonprofit in the next 5 to 10 years?
You guys got these great questions. I mean, I honestly would love to do some work internationally. I would love to see it grow because right now I'm just in South LA. It's very, very local. I would love even for it to, you know, maybe have another league in another state, grow it nationally. But like really, I would love to do some stuff internationally. My mom's from the Bahamas, so maybe doing some work there. I've been in talks with doing some stuff in Nigeria or Uganda. I would really love to grow it internationally and teach girls how to play softball there. So I don't know if that really answers your question. I don't know. I would like to just not be local so much.
Do you have set steps to achieve that goal? Like, so you have a long-term goal. So do you have short-term goals in order to achieve that?
I not on paper. I don't. I don't. It's here.
And do you have a support staff around you? Because I'm curious, how does the nonprofit work in terms of like, do you have all volunteer based? Do you have a staff? And then as you look for people like interns and people coming in, what do you most value and look for as you're bringing people on your team? Like in terms of what you.
So right now it's all volunteer based. So it's my board. My board is literally the way that we function and the way that we've moved forward for the past 9 years. on paper, we do have on paper in the next 1 to 2 years that we would like to hire an executive director, someone who wakes up every single day and actually thinks about the organization besides me. But that's where we would love help and love to give experience to an intern, where it would help us in terms of gathering our data and all those things. And right now we're trying to tell the story through numbers. That's like been our biggest focus this past year, is like really being able to tell about the stories of the girls who we're serving through the numbers and, you know, all of their background. But I don't have staff, so it's literally myself, my mother, and my board. And so that's it. And obviously, and then not to mention the people. So I partnered with the city of LA, and I have some of they help actually run the program. So they put the schedule together. We just subsidize the program.
Do you look for people only with softball backgrounds in terms of, okay, so how could someone in here potentially get involved? Like we talked in the beginning of class about really being proactive and looking for opportunities to volunteer, whether it's a one-time thing or would there be anything that we as a class or individual students could do to say, hey, we'd love to come and support what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. Just reach out. I mean, just reach out and let me know. But obviously, I'm interested in people who want to further and give back to one. I mean, I think giving back to our girls, but also gaining experience and whatever. And that's more so like the areas that we have is business development, whether it be a marketing area or whether it be like programs, you know. So those are our biggest areas. So I would be interested in someone who is wanting to get the experience in that. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Very straightforward.
So I love stats. So when I was reading up on your bio, I was like clicking some links. And so in 2004,
yeah, like if you tell me my stats, I'm like I don't know.
No, I just looked it up. So
okay.
like a couple hours ago.
Okay.
So the Olympics, like you tied Team USA's like hits record, something like that, 12, something like that.
I
Do you know if you still have that record? I just wanted to hear from you.
I would think so because there was only. Well, yeah, I do because there was after 2008, softball got taken out of the Olympics, so there hasn't been anybody that played in the Olympics since then. So
you were the last Olympics team. For now.
Yeah, for now. For now.
Yeah.
No, just that one kid.
I know.
Or the.
I was thinking about that talking to players and I'm like, oh,
she had like 400.
Sucks.
yeah. Yeah.
600.
Hey, stats.
I ran it like 2 hours. No, not like that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Pretty impressive. I looked at one time.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions?
I had a question.
Yeah.
So you said like early in your career you were good at like staying in the now. So then, what do you think changed, or are you better at that now? Because I remember you said like later on you're kind of like, oh, I'm gonna kind of stop playing. I gotta stop playing.
Yeah, no, I think I've always been in the now. Like I think that's like one of my biggest strengths is like I don't really feel like I look too far ahead. Like I'm really in the now. Because even just speaking about last season, like. I entered the season not thinking that I was going to retire. Like, I just was going through another season, and literally, like, at the end, I'm like, I'm good. I'm done. I think I'm done. You know, so I really do feel like I do a good job of, like, really staying in the now. And I think that's kind of, like, what helped me in my career because I wasn't really, like, focused on, like, looking too far ahead, you know. Just literally just doing the work, having fun, and doing my thing. You guys have good questions.
Right? It's a good class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, we are so lucky to have you.
Oh,
like
thanks for
honestly.
having me.
And LaRon, are you ready? You are our designated. He is up.
Yeah.
He is up. He's our designated thank you.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
But oh my goodness, thanks for sharing.
Thank you
And I
guys
wanna
for having me. Good luck.